Now on Enough Said with KFAN Radio's Dan Barrero.
And by the way, you can do that, but then don't pretend that you are the People's Party, right?
Attorney and HoldingCourtPodcast.com's Ron Rosenbaum.
I mean, first of all, nothing is worse than watching politicians wrap themselves in religion and the Bible. They're not, of course,
still do.
Well, it's the rich people's stadium, Dan, because
are they not people too?
Well,
maybe not.
It depends.
Enough Said.
I don't understand, because your ties and the clothes you make is made in Mexico and in China. So you're going to be starting a trade war against your own ties and your own suits.
All right. You know why? Because
Why don't you
they
make them in
devalue
America?
their currencies.
No.
They devalue their currencies.
Well, then make them in
that
America.
Makes it well, you don't know anything about business. You lose
Well,
on
make them in
everything you do.
America.
Let me just,
there are people that borrow $36,000 to go to
Mr.
Trump University, and they're suing him now. $36,000 to go to a university.
By the way,
that's a fake school.
And by the way,
and you know what they got? They got to take a picture with a cardboard cutout of Donald Trump.
John, do you remember John Belushi?
I do.
You remember a motion picture called Animal House?
I do.
You remember the moment when they're in the food court area and he stands up and says, "Food fight!" That's what I was screaming at my TV last night, because even by Republican debate standards, which haven't exactly been, shall you say, classic, it's been nuts, and it took another level yesterday of, I would say, great entertainment. I don't know that we learned anything, and I do think, I am in the group that believes that Trump did take some damage for the first time. Not sure it's mortal, but I do think he took a little bit of damage from your guy, Rubio, not so much from my guy, Cruz, who I thought was just, yeah, that's what he said, almost like he'll take whatever Rubio was saying and double down on it. What did you make of it?
Well, first of all, they should have had Marty O'Neill from the old Calhoun Beach, who used to announce the Crusher and Vern Gagne. I mean, let's get ready to rumble is kind of what it was. The question that I have while Trump turns to Cruz, you're a liar and you're nothing.
You're a fraud, and you're a
fraud,
cheat,
whatever. I
whatever
mean, these are.
Oh, he choked. The other one, he said he was a choker.
Yeah, you're
one was a liar, one was a choker.
And you're sweating like a pig. You know, as only Trump can do. The question is, why now? Why didn't they do this 2 months ago when Trump is right on the verge of getting the nomination? Right. All of a sudden, Rubio says, you know, I'm a fighter. I was a wimp for months, but all of a sudden,
robotic.
It did ring a little bit untrue to me, Dan.
Well, the problem.
But it was entertaining.
It was entertaining, and here's the key question: will Trump's supporters, who are pretty devoted to him at this point,
including David Duke, by the way, from the Klan.
He's on there too.
Yeah,
that's
he's
helpful. How are they going to look at this? Will it actually make them take a second look and go, you know, what are the plans? I like what he says, but what are the plans? Or are they going to go, they've all beat up on him, they all ganged up on him, and by God, I'm going to double down on my guy, Donald Trump, because they were mean to my guy.
I don't think the core is going anywhere. I think the 35%, Trump, they could find out he was molesting children and he was firing, American workers and hiring illegal immigrants, whatever. I think they're with him. The question is, as long as Cruz and Rubio stay in, he may not need more than 35%. I think nobody is supporting Trump because they think he's a paragon of virtue. He's sort of the old Mexican model of El Jefe. Right. Yeah. He's a tough guy who can get stuff done. Whether he can or not, of course, is a different question.
Here's Cruz's blunder to me, though. He tries to turn it into, well, this guy's not a real Republican. Does he not
They don't care.
They don't care about that at this point. In fact, there may be some voters who actually find that part of it refreshing, that he doesn't go down and check every Republican box, as has been the case in the past. But Rubio, I thought, this was easily, I thought, his best moment in not being robotic, being in the moment, and getting Trump really, really annoyed.
Well, he did one other thing.
Enough said on that. Sorry, we're going to have to move on. We'll stay on the election, though. Let's talk about Super Tuesday. It's just around the corner, a few days away. Minnesota voters will flock to more than 4,000 precincts to caucus across the state. The nomination process for Democrats is different than the GOP. Do you think Republicans could benefit from the same process, Ron?
Well, first of all, let's explain the way it's done. The Democrats, now I'm talking about small d, not major.
Right.
We're for the people. We want the people to decide. It used to be that these candidates were picked in smoke-filled rooms.
Which you prefer.
I do prefer it, by the way.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Then they got McGovern, and they go, oh, my God, we just got murdered. So in order to ensure that never happens again, they set up this phony system where you can go to the kids' table and vote, but the superdelegates, who are the insiders, who will be a third of what it takes to get the nomination are being held in abeyance, and they don't have anything to do, Dan, with what the voters do. So you can vote, but that's why they're going to make sure they don't get Sanders. They're going to get Hillary.
It's basically a check and balance. And by the way, you can do that, but then don't pretend that you are the People's Party, right? And although, as Lori brings up, it may well be that the Republicans wished
they
had a
that
greater
they had
percentage of superdelegates because they then maybe
then they wouldn't have
could control Trump,
or maybe Cruz,
and somebody else gets up there. But you're exactly right. It started, I think, the Dems. They go, what if we end up with George McGovern? We may love him as an ideologue, but he ain't going to get elected. So that was the check that was put in place, and just own up to it, because that's why a lot of people say, well, the delegate count between Hillary and Bernie is really close. But
Makes
then you look
no
at the
difference.
superdelegates and you go, well, no, it's a route. Well, how could it already be a route when you're supposed to use this primary
because
system
it's
to
a
get the voice of the
fixed
people?
game. But I'll tell you one thing. Like you said, I guarantee the Republicans are envious. Wish we could get rid of Rubio and Cruz. Cruz hates the Republican Party.
Yeah.
He's the most unpopular guy. And whatever Trump is, he's not a Republican. They want Rubio. Whether
what's
it's
funny?
too late to get him, I don't know.
Well, that's the interesting thing, because I think within the halls of Congress, I still think Cruz is more despised. There's quotes every week about that he could get killed right, basically on the lawn, and nobody would testify in his behalf on what they saw. They despise him, I think, more than they do Donald
Trump reminds him of that every time, Nobody likes you. You're
true.
the most unlikable guy I've ever seen. I mean, Trump knows how to get it right into the heart.
But they got into him in that, I thought.
No,
in
I
that
agree.
way. This is the
Okay.
first time.
We need to move on. Next story. It blew up this week locally and then nationally. An offensive personalized license plate getting through the system. Now the state is reviewing nearly 100,000 vanity plates. The plate read F Muslims and was issued last summer in the city of Foley. It has been revoked since then. The governor appalled. Take a listen.
Well, I think it's deeply offensive to Muslims and those of us who are respectful of the rights of Muslim Minnesotans to be in this state, be accepted as full citizens, and to make that kind of a just deeply offensive statement. Shame on the person who did it, and I think I'm glad it's going to be apprehended and revoked, the license.
Somebody should have paid attention to it and asked questions.
Well, this is your state, Dan. You're adopted
No, this
state.
is
I was
adopted
born
state,
here.
yeah.
I don't really have an
I
excuse.
come from the great state of Illinois, where they're always above board.
Their
politically
governors
speaking.
aren't appalled. They're convicts, right?
5 of the last 6, I think
Right,
you're right
okay.
about that, but who's counting?
So I want to know who the bureaucrats were. This guy apparently said, F Muslims is the name of my band. I just wonder who the bureaucrats were, because it didn't go just through one level. It went through more than one level. Who said, well, it looks fine to me. Well, it's clearly offensive, unless the guy's name was Frank Muslim, okay? And so the question is, Dan, this whole vanity plates, which I've never do you have any vanity plates?
I have 3 of them.
Yeah, you have none of them, I guarantee. I don't understand.
I'd get so busted. I get ripped if I did something.
Well, people
that
say this is a great thing because the state makes money. Are they going to make money now that we're reviewing 98,000 of them
How'd you
to
like
see
be the
how
guy
many of this?
The guy who got that job, by the way. No, you're right. And I don't think, by the way, this is the First Amendment issue at all, in that this is, you're asking the government. The government, I think, on a plate is allowed to make decisions, maybe even arbitrary ones, on what's obscene, what is offensive, and what isn't, or indecent, although indecency is, that's all in the
I'm not
eyes of
sure,
the
by the way,
beholder.
this fits any of those categories.
But do we know
it may be abhorrent, but it's
Yeah.
not indecent or obscene.
I'm not sure I bought this was worthy of national attention, though. I don't necessarily buy that whatever this clown was attempting to do, and by the way, to this day, we don't know what it was supposed to stand for.
Well, there
because
was no
there's
band. We
initials,
know that.
Right, but we don't know. I mean, have you looked at some of these plates, the code that's on these plates, and you go, what is that
I don't
supposed
understand
to mean?
them.
I don't understand them either, but I'm not buying that this is the mainstreaming of Islamophobia. Deal with it. It's one idiot. How it got through is worthy of discussion, and try to find out the answer to that question. The best way out of the box would be end the vanity plates, but I think they love the money. It's just like they still want people to smoke, even though they say they don't want you to smoke, because we're used to taxing those poor folks so much that we could not live without the money.
Coming up on Enough Said.
Joe Mauer is not the brightest bulb. because some people are
Why do you always
making
feel
him-
the need to rip
well,
him?
because he's
Are you
trying-
jealous that he makes $24 million
Yeah, I actually-
and you don't?
Well, I am that.
Okay.
But he.
Yesterday, a staffer from our campaign sent out a tweet that tweeted a news story that purported to indicate Marco saying something negative about the Bible. The news story was false.
I posted it in haste. I should not have done it. I've apologized to Marco Rubio. I apologized to the campaign.
You know, this has my blood boiling, I swear to you, Ron. Let me take a part of the story that I think a lot of people are missing. Let's say, for the sake of discussion today, that Marco Rubio had said what he was alleged to have said, basically that you're not going to find all of the answers.
All the answers in the Bible.
What in the world would have been so evil and awful about that? Is that become, in this landscape, a gotcha moment where we're out-Bibling each other? That's the part of it that, leaving aside that apparently he didn't say it, but I hate the fact that somebody thought, we got him. Well, he actually is a fraud on the Bible, and our guy is better on the Bible than his guy is. What does that have to do with governance and leadership?
It's exactly that angle that I was thinking of. God forbid, okay, in a time we've got thousands of people dying in Syria, thousands of people dying in Iraq, Africa's in chaos, we got trouble, we got global warming, we got everything. What if you look at the book and say, God, I wish all the answers were there. Where are you going to find the answer to global warming? Of course, many people say it doesn't exist. Right. The war in Syria, whatever. But the gotcha was, Rubio, we caught him. He said all the answers aren't in the Bible. Let everybody know this. It's just, when did all this get into our politics? Well, you remember with JFK, as you brought up last week, it was a great point. The point is, we don't want our leaders taking advice from people like the Pope. Now, if you don't say everything is in the Bible, you're not fit to be president.
And as a couple of people, including, I think, Cal Thomas, who's a pretty religious guy, even he reached a point where he said, enough of this crap, enough of this nonsense where you're going to try to say you're more religious than the next guy, I'm more into family values. And this is a guy who's pretty conservative. And because as we know, just saying it doesn't necessarily even mean it's true. And we're back to, is this part of your qualification? Can it be part of who you are? I think we both agree that's legal and that can be. But to make this the gotcha moment to where then then Cruz has to go up and apologize yet again. He's done a lot of that, it seems. I'm with Trump on that part of it. Is frightening to me.
Trump just says you're the worst liar I've ever seen.
He didn't even say no answers were in the Bible. He said you might not find all the answers there. And that's the moment where this guy who ended up has to say, we've got our guy.
I mean, first of all, nothing is worse than watching politicians wrap themselves in religion and the Bible. Okay,
fraudulently often.
Well, or always often. But when did it seep in? How did it get to be that is sort of?
I can answer that. I can answer that. I think.
You answer that, and then we have to move on.
Well, we'll answer it quickly. I think it's the reaction to the feeling that the secularists among us are basically trying to eradicate
the country.
Religion, which I'm not. I don't think either one of us is doing that. It's a matter of what should matter and what shouldn't, and to try to out-Bible your opponent.
I think religion and politics ought to be kept separate.
Okay, let's talk baseball. How about that? Twin star Joe Mauer trying to clarify some recent comments made about experiencing blurred vision over the last 2 seasons. He said there were times that it was difficult, but that now he feels great. Twins management didn't know about any of this. Excuses, Dan?
Well, it's one or the other. It's another. You know, Adrian Peterson is not the brightest bulb, I think we found out. Joe Mauer is not the brightest bulb either here. Because some people are
Why do you always feel the need to rip him?
Because he's.
Are you jealous that he makes $24 million and you don't?
Well, I am that.
Okay.
But he's, you know, in this case, he's trying to. Some people have viewed him as, wow, this is heroic of him to do. He's finally being honest about a significant injury post-concussion, which is serious stuff. And I'd say I might buy that if he had also passed along the same information to the folks paying him.
So
that
you would think
$24 million.
he's playing it both ways.
I think
you think on one hand it's sort of an excuse why I had a bad year. On the other hand, I want a little sympathy.
I'm saying you can't play it both ways. And I think the team has a right to say, if this is true, okay, come to us. I think the reason the team's pushing back is they're not convinced it's as significant as he's suggesting. And again, if it was that significant, talk to him.
Why are so many people then ripping the Twins? This seems
I don't
to
know.
me. First of all, I don't even know why
nonsensical.
Maurer said it, because it clearly. And then, you know, in fairness, he did sort of say, well, you know, I sort of said that and I sort of didn't say that. And
He did the
I want to.
halfway
They
back
always
pedal.
want to move on.
After
I
they
mean,
throw the bomb into
right.
the, yeah.
It's time to. I mean, I was a little confused, but if what it looks like, the Twins are kind of the victims of, hey, if you'd told us, either maybe we could have done something
Right.
or we wouldn't have played you, whatever. I mean, the jacket, I kind of agree. The jacket is kind of on Maurer here.
No question. And, you know, some people say, well, yeah, but Joe's stuck because every time he's honest about an injury, he gets ripped. I would submit this is the one injury related to the head that people are going to go, yeah, this is legit.
As opposed to the bilateral.
Which was your favorite?
What is that,
Bilateral
by the way?
leg weakness
I just
does
don't know
not
what that is.
exist as a condition. I think the Twins invented it, and that didn't do Joe any favors. But Joe had been his own worst enemy.
One quick
about hemming and
question.
hawing about it.
Is he automatically?
Coming up on Enough Said.
My attitude is if you drive your car out into the lake right next to a thin ice sign,
If you die, you die.
you're on your own.
kinda
You
cold.
kind of.
You know, we were under enormous pressure. With the team had a lot of cards to play. I mean, they didn't have to. They weren't going to sign their renewal lease. They didn't have to agree to the site. You got two teams now moving to Los Angeles. There's no doubt in my mind, and we were told by the commissioner flat out that, you know, not the team was definitely moving, but the team would be in play.
Okay, fine. Dayton saved the Vikings for Minnesota. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But there is a question that's lingering out there. You remember?
You would even say festering.
Well, yeah, that's a good word. Where Dayton said, remember, for a long time they called it the People's Stadium. Turned out,
Some
of course,
still do.
well, it's the rich people's stadium, Dan,
There's-
because
are they not people too?
Well,
Maybe
sort of.
not,
It
yeah.
depends. So the idea was, we're not going to have seat licenses. That's for cities like New York and Dallas. We're not going to have seat licenses. This is the People's Stadium. Then it turns out not only are there seat licenses, the vast majority of tickets at the stadium
Right.
are seat licenses. You understand what seat licenses are? Just paying for the right even to buy
To
it.
get
Goes
the
straight
ticket.
into the owner's pocket. So then Dayton position is, I wasn't aware of this.
Right.
Apparently everybody in my staff, the Attorney General, all these geniuses around me missed this.
in the fine print.
And so my question to you,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to, well, I guess I am trying to rip Dayton, this whole stadium thing, because it only cost the people of Minnesota $500 million.
The Wilts are putting in 500.
Yeah, of which
And a lot of that's
none
gonna
of it
get
is going to
back
be
to-
their
yeah,
money. A
right,
lot of it's
right.
going to be. But the question is, would you rather have a governor who missed this in the contract?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't know. I looked at it; it wasn't there.
Busy day, I had indigestion.
I can't get every
Right,
detail.
right.
Or would you rather have a governor who's lying? And which do you think the governor is doing?
Well, I would rather, if you're forcing me to pick between those
well, it's got to
two,
wait. It's got to be one of those two,
I
doesn't
would
it?
pick, I guess, I'd rather have him lie, because if he didn't lie, that means
He's
we
incompetent.
we may find out there's several other things that we didn't know regarding this whole deal. How about a third choice? How about, and he goes halfway to that, but not all the way. How about you say, look, I ain't going to lie to you. I didn't want to lose this team. You didn't want to lose. This is the number one team in town. They might not have gone to L.A. for sure, but we were going to lose control of the situation, and teams were going to go to L.A., and the price was, as big as it was worth it, because I didn't want to lose the team, and of course I knew they were
I
going to be
could live
seat
with
licenses.
that.
Everyone is distracted these days. You have people known as pedestrians, walkers lost in texting, and the person on Lake Minnetonka who neglected to see the thin ice warning sign. Yes, there it is. I say, seriously, Ron?
Well, first of all, I know this is going to sound harsh, and I know it may be a surprise to you, but
You harsh?
but my attitude is, if you drive your car out into the lake right next to a thin ice sign, as far as I'm concerned,
If you die, you die.
you're on your own.
kinda
You
cold.
kind of checked out of
Well, you know what it
being
is? Yeah.
part of us.
You know what it is? It is proof of that these signs, the signs that supposedly help the stupid by definition, don't help the stupid because those people are stupid, or they're stubborn about saying, I don't care what that says, so why bother putting up the signs
Well,
in the first place?
well, because maybe some people
Some
would
people
pay
might
attention to it.
Next up, it's being called the Cecil effect, a big drop in game hunters in Zimbabwe after a Minnesota man killed Cecil. Wildlife authorities may now need to kill 200 lions because of overpopulation. Dan.
How about you and I go over there and do it? You want to try it, maybe?
Well, first of all, maybe the dentist was actually doing God's work.
Because you were part of the mob.
No,
that
I
not
wasn't.
Only wanted him fired, basically routed out of his job.
No,
you wanted him out of the state.
That's your loony callers on that little radio show. That wasn't me.
Yeah.
I thought things got a little hysterical, but in fact, now they're going to kill 200 lions. What are they going to do now? Who's the mob going to go after now?
Because there are actually people who live in farms, and these lions overrun it. And so those of us who live in our own fantasy world here think we're protecting people there.
Okay,
We don't even know what we're talking about.
Anchor Brian Williams on MSNBC, he was demoted last fall. He's leading the cable's network coverage on the election, but with his track record of lying, is this a good idea, Ron?
Well, they don't allow him on NBC because he's not credible. So NBC says, we're the big boys station, but, we'll put you over on MSNBC. What does that say to the listeners? We're kind of credible, but we're really not credible because he's a liar, but we can't put him on this station. How can they live with that? Isn't that a contradiction for a news outfit?
If you're CNN or Fox, you say, this is brilliant. They are marginalizing their own network, MSNBC, better than we possibly could by putting them out there. On the other hand, how about second chances?
Well, then put him on NBC if you want a second chance.
I think MSNBC was Brian Williams' idea. I'm pretty sure he hatched it, or at least that's what he says.
Okay, Republican Nevada Governor Brian Sandoval's name out there for a possible replacement for Supreme Court Justice Scalia. But GOP leaders insist even if President Obama nominates a Republican, they still want to wait until after the November election. Dan.
Well, Sandoval, I think, is bowed out after the name was leaked by the same people who said, well, we know what you're talking about.
Harry Reid.
The Democrat. Yeah, starting with Harry Reid. I felt all along that that's the best way to truly box the Republicans in with at least a centrist. I didn't necessarily expect a Republican governor.
By the way, neither did the Democratic base.
Well. Okay. But we come to find out, would Obama really have the cojones to do that? No. And
as I said when we heard that name, I have a better chance of being put on.
You're right.
This is a huge talker right now. We have former Sports Illustrated model Cheryl Teagues blasting the magazine's decision to feature a plus-size model on the cover of the swimsuit issue. But she's not the only one. You got to be careful here. Dan.
Well, here's the thing on Cheryl Teagues. I've interviewed her once in a radio show, and it was bizarre. The whole thing was bizarre. She's getting ripped for the full-figured idea.
She should be ripped.
She should be ripped, but to me, SI is the fraudulent ones because they want it both ways. They've made how many millions off of doing what? The perfectly sculpted, a swimsuit model. And now it's, you want to show me something, SI? Don't do 3 covers. Make your only cover.
That was a little bit of a weenie move.
So
okay,
to
real
me,
quick,
they're rippable.
We got to get to one more thing real quick. Liking something on Facebook isn't enough anymore. We can express our emotions. Ha, love, wow, sad, angry, not just like. Facebook says now you have greater control over expressing yourself. Is that how we want to express ourselves, Ron?
See, we don't even need to think anymore. Now, Facebook has told us there's 5 ways you can think. Can you imagine the World War II generation? I'm an Iwo Jima. Ha. Or things are really bad. Sad face. We don't even have to think of what our emotions are. There's only 5. And you just press a button, and this is how I feel.
What?
God forbid you should write a letter to somebody and tell you how you feel.
Here's the sad part is, many people's self-esteem is directly related to how many, likes and happy emojis they receive. And if they don't get them, they're devastated. That's where we are.
Well, as you said last week, you have concerns about the future.
Very much so. And that is not
This is